Welcome to the Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. I have Manny Kirikides from the Pushworth Group with me today and two very special guests. I have Martin Lass, who is a multi-award-winning international pop violinist virtuoso and internationally renowned pianist and musical director Inge Lass. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. How are you?
My pleasure.
Good morning.
It's good to see you. Now, look, I want to start. These two guys have achieved something extraordinary. Way before Vanessa May or Andre Rieux, these two were able to make classical music accessible to general audiences around the world. So whether it was cruise ships in the Mediterranean, Pacific, the Caribbean, theaters in New York, major cities, concert halls, whether it was regional performing arts centers around the country or pubs and clubs worldwide, these two got on stage and brought classical music to the contemporary music market, which is extraordinary. And for me, more importantly, because we work in the contemporary music market, to get a young artist up on stage to be able to perform, that journey begins way, way, way back when they're young kids and they're starting to learn violin and piano at school. Now, what Martin and Inge have done is they've leveraged their extensive touring, recording, performing careers, and they've created a music education program which is building the future music artists of the world. They're talking about the what and the how, but most importantly, the why. The why is what drives our music industry. So to start with, you two, I'd like to hear, as music teachers, how you've survived the lockdown so far.
Yes, the lockdown. We've had to, it's been easier for some people than others. I mean, if you have a background in technical stuff and computers and stuff, it's been easier. But for people that have not got that background or not so computer savvy, it's been terribly difficult, quite a steep climb. But the two of us have survived it very well. We've learned new technologies, new techniques, and we've had to learn how to relate to students online, in an online environment. You would think it would be much the same as being face-to-face, but it isn't at all. The first thing that I noticed when the students got on there was that they were all kind of stiff and frozen and almost afraid to talk because they were aware that they were being filmed. So there was the psychology of it as well.
Okay.
But as far as the technical aspects, we worked our way through that fairly quickly, and we got straight into the teaching, and it opened up a new avenue for us, let's put it that way. And now we are looking at how can we expand that in different ways, which we might talk about a little later.
Absolutely, because I think the challenge for students has been to actually physically get to the classes. So now that you've actually conquered the whole technology, so to speak, as we all have, that opens up, I guess, students anywhere in the world to be able to work with you too.
Absolutely.
I think that's a major plus. Did you have any shows yourself as an artist that had to be rescheduled as a result of the lockdown?
Yeah, but we don't know if they're going to get rescheduled. So they may not. At the moment, there's nothing scheduled at all for live performance for either of us. Yeah. Thankfully, we are no longer involved with performing on cruise ships. Yay.
Good move. Yes. Good move.
And I feel very deeply for those entertainers and friends and colleagues whose only livelihood was performing on cruise ships, because they're now in severe financial disaster and with no foreseeable way out.
It's going to take years to come back, if it ever comes back at all in the same way.
Yes.
And can you believe this is where we're at? Can you believe in our lifetime we are seeing this? It's a decimation.
Oh, there's so many layers though. Where have you gone?
Yeah, we're here. I think Manny's got a question for you.
Oh, that's why I saw him with his facial hair.
That's it. Well, guys, Martin and Inge, I believe it's probably 30 years plus in the music and in the entertainment industry. So it's three gene pools of music. So I guess you were at the cutting edge of, as Nikki said, bringing classical violin into popular culture. So you experienced obviously some challenges in actually doing that. I'd love to hear what were the challenges, the initial challenges of bringing that art form into popular music. Was it well received? I remember, probably take us through New Faces. That intrigues me, how that that sort of launched you into that next, into the next trajectory or a stage of your career?
Yes, well, going on New Phases to begin with was somewhat of a...
It was a gag.
It was a gag, yes.
It worked.
It was a gag because we used to watch New Faces, and this is not a kind thing, to see how some of the acts were so terrible, and we have a good laugh about that. And
yeah, but to be fair, we also looked forward to the ones that actually had some
and
talent.
that had
That
talent.
was exciting.
And we were at that time young, struggling parents, and a friend of ours who's a cellist went on there, and we saw him, and he played the Swan, and he won a stereo and $1,000. He won the series, and so I said, well, why can't you do that? We don't have a stereo. We could sure. I mean, we're talking. Well, let's see. Saskia was not 1 or 2, and she's now 38. So we're talking a long time ago. Yeah,
So
way more than 30.
That started a very long history of, why can't you do that, dear?
That's right. And so, yeah, he went on there and, blah, blah. The rest is history. No one had heard of this before. Judges gave him standing ovations. And then came the crossroads. I think that's what you're asking about, Manny. How did it then translate into an actual career? No,
yes.
I want to finish
Before
this
you
train
go
of
into
thought.
that, before you go
We're
into
going to
that,
fight over who
we're
gets to
not- we're not
talk.
gonna-
Love it.
because part
Bring
of
it
it
on.
was going on a show like that, we had to kind of think to ourselves, what am I going to play that's going to appeal to a wider audience? And that's the crux of the matter. And
Yeah.
we chose some gypsy music because I have a bit of gypsy music in the background, which is semi-classical but semi-popular. So it kind of it already spans that divide that there was back then, and that was really the launching point. And from there, everything else. You were saying?
Well, and yes, and also because we had to look through our record collection to see what material we could glean for doing this, and went to the markets and got some weird looking shirts, and but as a result of Martin winning, pretty much everything on New Faces, we started to get calls from agents to do shows in clubs. We had no idea what were clubs. Had no idea. Martin was still at that time principal second violinist in what's now the Opera and Ballet Orchestra in Sydney, and
Well, I remember the day I was coming out of the Opera House after a rehearsal and out through the stage door, and my phone rang. And on the other end of the phone, there was this agent saying, I can get you a whole lot of work in the Sydney clubs. And I thought, what? What are you talking about?
But then when we found out that a 30-minute club gig paid the same as a week's salary for the orchestra, we thought, well, interesting. And everyone in the orchestra said, oh, no, you should stay with this secure government job for the rest of your life. And I said, stuff it. You can always go back into an orchestra if this doesn't work. So we did our first gig in Sydney on a Sunday arvo at Smithfield RSL, where the front row had the trannies on listening to the races, a couple of people selling peas, and it was shit. It was terrible. It was a horrible show. We did not know what we were doing. We're so deer in the headlight.
We had to use the band as well.
And I'd never conducted a band before.
And I'd never written charts for drums and bass before. And, we were trying them out for the very first time. No rehearsal.
No.
It was all like a talk through beforehand.
Never done that either. Just went on stage. Look, for us, it was probably just okay. Anyway, we still got more bookings. And so then we engaged a booking agent to come and help us craft the show. And he came along. So this is after about 6 months of doing club shows, and it had improved, but not really, drastically. And I said, so come and tell us what we need to do. He comes backstage and said, oh, Martin will always only ever be a support act. And I thought, that's it. I'm proving you wrong. He was a big name agent. He was Daryl Summers' agent because Daryl Summers had discovered Martin. So that's how we got onto it. I thought, no. So look, we went on. We did a lot more research. Martin overcame his shyness of public speaking and learned how to talk to an audience and make it engaging. The music was always brilliant. And then you've seen it. The rest is history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think go on.
Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, how good is that experience that you can share with your students when they're dealing with shyness and they're dealing with they're not sure. You've had that real-time market experience that helps them to actually hone their craft more than someone who actually hasn't had that market experience. I think that's critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I do with my students when they're about to walk on stage for performance or go in for an exam and they're all, oh, I'm so nervous on this. I said, no, look at me and say very loudly, I'm a rock star. I said, well, I can't say that. I said, oh, you're going to say that now. Do it. I'm a rock star. Look me in the eye and say it. Louder. I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star. I said, now put your arms up. I'm a rock star.
They'd be too scared not to do it.
Yeah. But it gets rid of that fear. They walk in there confident, and then once they're on the stage and playing, most part it's, all their fear's gone and they deliver. So it's really fun to apply what we've learned.
I think that's actually your edge in this market, having that experience and then being able to psychologically convert that and leverage that for your students. I think that's so important because we got to deal with it 10 years down the track. So,
Thanks,
we need students like you, more teachers rather like you. Manny, what was the other question you were going to ask before I read
I guess the question was the costuming. Do you still have those costumes, Martin?
Some of them, yes.
He does. He's still got the cobalt blue long coat with the matching pants. That stuff never dies.
No,
and the designer is still here, right here on the Gold Coast. He's still operating. It's hilarious.
No, I love it. I guess I'm keen to think. I'm keen to understand from you guys, from your perspective, what do you think is going to change once restrictions are eased and we try and get back to whatever normal will be? What do you think will be different in terms of a concert, whether it's a school concert, whether it's a concert you're putting on yourselves? What do you think will be different moving forward?
That's a very broad question.
Very broad question.
Yeah.
But what I see for the future, this has opened up a huge opportunity for, and it was already in the brewing and already happening that people were thinking about putting on virtual concerts, online, not just online, but virtual, in a virtual environment. There's some big ones. I forget which band it was that did it, but they did a whole thing of it, so that we can reach a wider audience. There's a global audience out there if it can be set up the right way, and you have basically a virtual audience. You have audience from all around the world. Now this could be in an actual venue, like a big venue, like a stadium or something, or it could just be in a studio with a virtual background. Possibilities are limitless, and it means that the small players can also get in on it as well. They're not limited to it. They've got that whole audience, and then the rest of it is just about marketing. But I think the technology is offering a huge opportunity here, and we've already started to think about how can we take advantage of that.
Agreed. And in terms of the kids, the kids that you're actually teaching at school, obviously the end of school concert is really important. What do you think moving forward? How is that going to change? Because obviously,
what we're doing right now, we have concerts at the end of each term. We're approaching our end of term concert in a couple of weeks, and it's not going to be a live concert. We are each ensemble is getting recorded, video recording, and then they're putting together the whole video recording as a presentation, and they're putting it on their own dedicated YouTube channel, and it's going to be streamed out to all the parents and anybody else, friends that wants to listen in.
Wow, so that's going to change the kids' approach to technology, to marketing, to performance psychologically, and actually doing a performance in a virtual situation is so different to doing it live, isn't it?
Yes, very, very different. There's not that, that's one of the drawbacks, of that there's not that live feedback that you get in the live
It'll never
situation.
replace it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you, Inge. I think that the live energy exchange between the audience and the artist is something.
What about virtual reality, though?
Virtual reality. Talk about that, because I want to hear that.
Everybody puts on a headset and they see all of their friends around them, and they see they're interacting just in a virtual environment. It's still live in a sense.
Well, I think it's an interesting discussion that we're having today, because we have no idea where we're going. Everything has changed. Nothing is certain. All we know is where we've come from. So I think what you have both talked about today is giving us a lot to think about. Yeah. virtual
It's going to
reality
be, the
concerts.
future is very interesting. Nothing will replace live though. I mean, we come from that world, but nothing will replace live. That
No.
experience, that social interaction, going to the venue. I think that will become a real specialty. By the sounds of things, we are in for the virtual world, as you say, Martin, and a live show will be something extraordinarily special. It will make people engage. I think it'll make for better performances and shows, and people to think about what they do live rather than just getting up on stage, be it in the classical sphere and be it in the contemporary sphere. So I think live will become very, very specialised in the future. So
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one, because I mean, after all, the bottom line is we are physical beings having a physical experience.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
the interaction between us as physical beings, proximity, atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, it can be replaced by anything yet.
100%. Look, I'm going to put all of your information in this post so that anyone who wants to get in touch with you with regard to you guys doing a show or getting their children educated by you for your amazing talent. So I'll put all your information in there. Martin and Inge, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It was a really great chat. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Nikki and Manny.
Thanks, Manny.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
See ya.